Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast.
We are only as strong as we are united, as weak as we are divided. If those words resonated with you, then you may be familiar with the one, the only, the forever living in our hearts, Albus Dumbledore. Today we are talking about Harry Potter, Half-Blood Prince. This is probably my favorite book of the series. Shocking it wasn't the romance one, but we are talking about the Half-Blood Prince. I am Elizabeth Clyde, one of their hosts, and I am joined with my favorite host that we love to do shenanigans with, Christian Ashley. How are you doing, Christian?
Snape kills Dumbledore. Remember when those were spoilers?
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, this has been so long now.
I'm ready to get into the thing. I need something better on my mind. I've been dealing with that position paper all day long. It's like, well, let's just cut loose and have fun.
Right. And we can have fun and probably, I guess, at this point in time, the darkest book of the series, if you will. Because we're not going to the other one. But at this moment, this was like really dark. Like, oh, we out here just trying to survive, literally.
Yes. This one, I mean, there's plenty of things where things have never been the same before, but this one for sure, like, causes what happens in the next book. If this doesn't happen here, we're not there. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to talk about everything that's going on in Half-Blood Prince.
But before we do that, what have you been geeking out on lately?
I actually just started. I'd avoided it when it came out because I'm not really a sports guy when it comes to, in general, outside of like basketball or football, and maybe tennis sometimes, but anime as well. I was like, not really my thing. But then I started watching Blue Lock, and I am having a time of my life in a game that I could care less about. I mean, I couldn't care less about soccer to save my life. But they make soccer fun, and that has never once happened before in my life.
That's how I felt with the volleyball anime. I was like, I could care less about volleyball, but all of a sudden, and basketball, Conqueror No Basket. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, so crazy. So I did a thing, and I just downloaded Final Fantasy XIV on the recommendation of you, because I think I was torn between two of them, and you helped me decide. So I started it, but I forgot how slow MMOs go. It's just so I just want to start casting like spells and getting like fun stuff.
Yeah.
But nope. Gotta go through all the training, but it's fine. We'll talk about that later. Maybe another Final Fantasy episode. Right now we are here with Harry Potter.
Well, real quick. What? TJ was also a part of that process. He did help out.
He did help.
He knows more about 14 than I do.
This is true, even though he doesn't play it. Oh, also, guys, everyone, I would like to make an announcement. Please add me on PlayStation as your friend. Comment or reach out if you want my gamer tag. Okay, thank you. Going on into Harry Potter returns to Hogwarts for his 6th year. So Dumbledore picks him up, which is kind of weird. Like, Dumbledore picks him up so many times. It's like, I got to figure out how to get to Hogwarts. And over here, it's like, all right, Harry, let's go. We have to go get this potions teacher. It's what was his name again? I didn't like him. Slughorn. Did not enjoy him at all. He's kind of a tool if you think about it.
I think this is a perfect use of subverting our expectations too, because you figure, oh, well, we're down another Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. So obviously that's who Slughorn is going to be.
But wait.
It's actually going to be Snape. But that's until later on. But at this moment in time, you're like, oh, okay, that's what it'll do. But no, he's suddenly in potions. So
Mhm.
who's the defense against the dark arts teacher? Yeah,
Snape, I
I
was
like
so
to build
happy
up.
for him. I was honestly, episode over. Highlight is Snape finally got his dream position. So good on him. Good on him. But yeah, so which is really good because, and this is probably just kind of me. I don't think they talked about this in the movie a lot, but like in order for Harry to be an oracle, a orc is how do you say it?
Horror,
Or
horror,
I was close. I knew I was
or
combining it with
horror.
something. He had to have gotten like an A in potions to be able to like take the track he wanted to take in his 6th year. But because Snape moved to Defense of the Dark Art and someone else moved to potions, he was able to take the high level potions class. And so now, I mean, like he's on track to graduate with all this credit. So as a teacher and former college admission person, I'm pretty dang happy for that. Like that made me very happy for him. I mean, you get it. You're in college right now.
Yeah.
You need those credits to line up just the way they need to.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that's one of those. It's like, oh, he was kind of giving up on his dream, but this is the one thing that changes it. And also, too, I think it's important we don't look over what happened with Dumbledore meeting with the Dursleys and being like, hey, you guys kind of suck. If it weren't for this whole thing where I had to have him here protected by a relative for his mother's love to be transferred, I wouldn't have sent him here. You guys are the scum of the earth. And they, at least Dudley and a little bit of, goodness gracious, Petunia, kind of start showing a little bit of their character development. Vernon's always Vernon. There's nothing's ever going to change about him. But it's a super nice moment to finally just the things we've all been saying as fans for years. Dumbledore puts into words.
Right. And then Dudley had a big change of heart too, because when Harry saved him, like Dudley like brought him soup and tried to like actually be kind, and like he tried to have like I would say atone for all the stuff he's done to Harry. So that warmed my heart. I mean, just give me soup and we'll be best friends. That's
There
all
you
you
go.
have to know about me. So going on, he is on the train, and pretty much we find, as a lot of teachers do with Slughorn, he has his favorites. And he quickly, this is why I called him a tool. We quickly find out with Slughorn, if you make him look good or if you add value to him, you are now in his inner circle. And so whenever you are on the outside looking in, of course, you want to be on his inner circle. And I say this because it's kind of a big deal because Malfoy, it looks like he's not in the inner circle. And so we are perceived of him and everyone else is perceived of him trying to get in the inner circle on this episode. And so I know I'm skipping ahead a lot, but that's just when so much stuff happens, you can't list this stuff in order because this is as I'm thinking of it. But Malfoy is given a secret mission pretty much at the beginning of the movie. And can you tell me a little bit, because you probably remember more of the details than I do. So can you share the details of that secret mission?
Well, let's do Slughorn first, and then I'll get there.
I like it.
Because I actually have an opposing view to you. I imagine that.
You like him?
We're breaking the fellowship right here and now.
Because you're a teacher's pet.
No, because he shows an eye to talent. And he doesn't play favorites with houses, which very few of the other teachers you can say that about. McGonagall's got her Gryffindors, Snape's got his Slytherins. Slughorn, if you're able to advance him, or if he thinks you have talent, you're in the club. Ginny Weasley, he didn't consider her until he saw her use that back bogey hex, I believe is what happened originally. And she gets brought in on that just through magical talent alone, knowing that she's a Weasley, knowing that she's someone who would never align with Slytherin values. He brings her in. But at the same time, he is a social standard. He's trying to build his status up. That's something I'm not big on, but I get it. So there's that for Slughorn. But as for Malfoy, at the very start of the novel, we kind of get this whole thing where Snape is told by Bellatrix and Narcissa, Malfoy's mother, that Malfoy's been given a mission by Voldemort. No one's allowed to talk about it. And Narcissa makes him makes Snape give an unbreakable vow so that he will protect Malfoy. And this is to that whole period of like, is Snape on Dumbledore's side? Is he on Voldemort's side? Like, what's going on here? And that buildup increases. Like, he just says nonchalantly, yeah, sure, I'll make the vow. So that makes it go crazy. Like, what's going on with that? So Malfoy's mission this whole time is to find a way to kill Albus Dumbledore, which is kind of seen as an impossible task, and Narcissa kind of brings it up. It's like, hey, this is because he hates what my husband did, what Lucius did to. She doesn't know about the Horcrux, but that we find is kind of one of the reasons why he sent Malfoy this way. Is kind of like suicide by cop in that regard, to try and if he succeeds, hey, Albus Dumbledore is dead. If he dies, well, he was never worth the attention anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And I mean, because at this point, he's going into his 6th year. They're what, 16? Maybe 17?
They're 16, maybe some older ones are 17.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's a big burden for a 16-year-old. And so we see it once again. Adults are, even though this is like, assassination, adults are putting kids to do adults' job and the weight of the world. So, and you really see a lot of Malfoy's distress in the movies. Like you hear about it in the book, obviously, but like you actually see him super uncomfortable, super distressed, super just, I mean,
Yeah, Felton does an amazing job at portraying that.
yeah,
It's
like
one of
he's
his
slowly
finest
like
acting
getting
chops right
sick
there.
with stress. I mean, granted, dude was always pale in the movie, but like he even got somehow paler. So that's crazy. Also, I think this one's not. It was last book was a lot about the actual coupling, right? Did Harry and Ginny get into this one? Become a couple?
This is when they become a couple in this book.
Oh,
It's
okay. I thought it was the last one for some
there's
reason.
been hints before, like obviously she had that huge crush on him as soon as they met,
Hmm.
but it's kind of assumed over time, well, maybe she just kind of drifted away, but no, we kind of learned, no, it's always been there.
Maybe this is why
She
it's my
just hid it.
favorite one because this is the romance one. Because this is the one he was like,
Yeah.
"Is this no?" Because he didn't spend the whole summer
Yeah.
at the Dursley. He was like, "But she's like my sister. Why am I getting jealous?" Is that this
Yeah,
book?
and his whole relationship with
Oh,
his whole
okay.
relationship with Ron's like, "Can I betray my friend like that, loving his sister that way, or would he prefer someone like me to be with her?" While she's also with, I think it's Dean Thomas
Yep,
in this
Dean.
book. Yeah,
Also,
and
Jenny's
yeah, go ahead.
a little promiscuous with the making out. I'm telling you, with this book, with the books leading up, she'd be making out left, she'd be making out right. And this one is does Valentine what's her name? Is her name Valentine or Violet or the one that is obsessed with Ron? Is that this book episode book 2?
Oh, Lavender.
Lavender. I knew it was something crazy. I was thinking purple. Is this the one where she's obsessed with Ron and Hermione starts
Oh,
getting really
yes,
jealous?
with her Wan,
Yeah. Ron
and yes,
Ron?
making Hermione very distressed because
Okay.
Ron being the huge jerk, and of course, hey, 16. You know, I wasn't that mature emotionally as a 16-year-old. I wouldn't have been able to play the nuances of this relationship any better than him. I probably would have even been even dumber. So I get it, but it doesn't help. That's how they're treating one another here. They're
Mhm.
acting like, hey, a bunch of dumb 16-year-olds.
I just love like with all the major plot that happens in this book and movie, on the side you have this random teenage stuff that happens too. It's
I
really,
think too, it's just
really nice.
it's rallying, writing and growing up with their audience and having your characters grow up with their audience. So, I mean, some of us around the time this was released were either in high school or leaving high school, and we'd been going through stuff like this before. So we got to see it on the page too and have our favorite characters interact in the same things we were dealing with. So I like it.
I do too. So I guess this is I was thinking this was my favorite book because I really love that Snape got his win, but I think also coupled with all the romance, I'm like, we gotta love it. But the main objectives, there's so many main objectives really, but Dumbledore and Harry kind of like team up and they're gonna try and find the Horcruxes. And so this is where they go into Tom Riddle's past a lot and they just try and figure out what's close to Tom. And so Harry is excited because like the other book, he's like, Dumbledore doesn't even talk to me. He won't even look at me. And now it's like, ooh, these two dynamic duos, they about to go fight crime together, Batman and Robin.
Yeah. And this is when we start learning what a Horcrux actually is. It's the splitting of one's soul after committing a murder for the sake of becoming essentially immortal in a very lich-like way. That's what Voldemort is trying to do as someone who has always feared death. And it means you have to enact death upon someone else in order to prevent yourself from dying. And it's just so sinister and evil. And you get to see his process growing up as this creepy kid in Hogwarts all the way up to a young adult, a kid out of school, and now as a man, and the evil just starts building and building and building. It's so well done.
Mm-hmm. It is. And Gosh, that's just, I don't even want to get to it. I think I cried in this book too, because it just goes so crazy. But what should we talk about next so I don't jump ahead?
Let's see. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about Snape a little more.
Okay.
In that we get to finally see what certain aspects more will be revealed in Deathly Hallows, but more about what he's about, why he's here, how he's able to play the double agent. Is he a triple agent? Is he a quadruple agent? What's going on in his mind? How can he make an unbreakable vow to protect Malfoy, whose job we find out is to murder and assassinate Dumbledore, while at the same time working for Dumbledore to make sure the school is safe, to make sure the Death Eaters don't take control. Now, obviously, we can't go into the Deathly Hallows and how that explains it more, but in this book, it builds up that everything ramping up to this point. So when he does kill Dumbledore, you think, oh, he's always been evil. He's always been on their side this whole time. And he played everyone like a fiddle.
Mm-hmm. And do we learn a little bit about his relationship with Harry's dad and mom in this book, or is that next book?
I think it's parts of Order of the Phoenix we learned that. I may be merging the two books.
That's
Because there's
I'm
one
doing.
point, yeah, when Harry kind of looks at a pensieve and sees the memory of Snape being bullied by his dad.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's in Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah, okay. So I didn't know if they did even
But
more. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. This is where we learn about his schooling through being the titular Half-Blood Prince.
Mm.
Snape is the one who has been the book that Harry found in the potions room, since he wasn't able to get one of his own, since he didn't know he would be in the class, and he just so happens to pick the one that Snape accidentally left behind that he used in his school days and wrote down notes to be, okay, this is how they say to do it. This is how I'm actually going to do it, because he was such a potions master that he was correcting the textbook.
Mm-hmm. And then there was even times where Snape doodled his own spells, and some of them were almost unforgivable. They weren't legit unforgivable spells, but they were still kill spells. And so Harry actually used one against Malfoy, not realizing the intensity of it. And so Snape was able to discover, what the heck, you have my book.
Yeah. Because, bless you.
Thanks.
Because earlier, Harry has never been a potions genius. If anything, it's always been Hermione.
Right, and he's schooling her right now, which doesn't even help with Ron. So she's mad at Ron. She's mad at Harry because she's doing better than her than one of the class. Hermione this is not her book.
She's having a rough go of it. But it's those little things that kind of build up for Snape to realize once he uses that spell, that Sectum Sempra spell, that makes him realize, I know exactly how you've been getting better at potions and all this. You've read my stuff. I can't have that happen. And he gets incredibly pissed off.
Yeah, but in Harry's mind, this is ammo. You're so evil. Look at all these spells you've done, and what else have you concocted that we don't even know about? So it doesn't paint Snape in the best light still.
And this is also when we learn, I think for the first time, that he's half-blood.
Yes.
And that's where the Eileen Prince was his mother's maiden name. And that's where he started calling himself the Half-Blood Prince. His father is a muggle and was very abusive towards both him and his mother. And that causes him to just despise himself and the whole system. So it kind of parallels him to Voldemort in certain respects, except that he had both of his parents. But it's in the same situation, muggle dad, magical mom, that you can see, oh, that's why he joined the Death Eaters. And I think later on we see a little more of him and Lily in this book. But once again, I'm hoping I'm not mixing books together, of how she still chose James over him because of the way he dealt with her. He called her Mudblood.
Yeah.
Even though he himself is one. And that kind of destroyed the friendship.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, even Lily, though, she knew James was bullying her friend because they were childhood friends. And she didn't really do a good job standing up. So he did say that out of anger, and he regretted as soon as he said that. But that still kind of shows how he still felt a little bit about Mudbloods. But I was always like, Lily, why didn't you go and be a better person? Why are you flirting with the bully?
Because James did grow up. He realized what he'd done, tried to make amends. And in many ways, James is kind of like my own dad.
I don't know, because
my dad,
what's it called? Sirius Black was still bullying Snape, even so he never grew up.
He didn't. but kind of like I don't know if I've shared this on the show before. My dad will be fine with me saying it. He didn't start off in the best place when it came to loving other people, we'll say, being empathetic, until he came to faith. And he realized, oh, I've screwed up a lot here. I've been bullying people. I've been making them feel really down on themselves. So he went out and made amends. That's kind of what James went through, minus a whole conversion scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Is he realized the weight of his actions. He realized, oh, this is why Lily hates me. So why don't I change myself, not just to get with her, but because it's better for me to be a good person, to reach out to people. And then, of course, the object of his bullying, Snape, didn't respond well. And why would he automatically? Because James had hurt him all these years. So there was an attempt at reconciliation. And in my dad's case, the same thing happened with him. He attempted to reconcile. He attempted to ask forgiveness from several people. Some of them told him no, and they would never forgive him. But at the end of the day, he did what he was supposed to do. And James did what he was supposed to do in that scenario as well. It's Snape who held on to that anger. And because of he held on to that anger, he ended up continuing to mire himself with the Death Eaters and ending up to the point where the only reason we find out that he didn't betray anyone, that he eventually betrayed Voldemort was because Lily was targeted.
Mm-hmm.
Which once again may be Deathly Hallows, so sorry for that.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, at this point, everyone kind of knows a little how it resolves. It's hard not to go because the books were written so well into flowing order.
Mhm.
It's hard not to get them mixed up because they just there's no drawing end or beginning, which I really appreciate. I mean, technically the school years, but it's fine.
If you'd like to support our show on Captivate, feel free to go to captivate.fm and find our show, subscribe. You'll get access to any future online D&D campaigns over there. You'll get an extra bonus question for 4 to 8 times a month. You'll get extra content like that through there. You also get a one-time donation you could make to help support the show right on Captivate. So you don't get anything for the one-time donation, but if you would like to just support the show once, do a quick donation, you can do that through captivate.fm. Our overhead includes editing software, marketing, equipment, recording software, and a whole lot of other stuff. And we really appreciate everybody who can help keep the lights on.
Can I go into the crazy scene now?
Yes, you may.
Okay, so climax, dun 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 dun. When Dumbledore and Harry were looking for the Horcrux, he went to a place where it was around where Tom Riddle's orphanage was and whatnot. And so Tom didn't think anyone knew this place existed. So in the book, it described how Tom went with 2 kids and they went out exploring. And correct, the 2 kids never came back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so those we infer those are 2 of the 7 he killed. And so he thinks he's all slick, but Dumbledore saw, I guess, with some kind of memory in his past that there is a cave. So him and Harry goes into the cave, and there's a spell on the boat where the boat will only go across the lake if only one wizard was in there. But technically, Harry wasn't of age yet, so the boat still floated. So they were able to go across the lake. It's very scary. Like, even if I watch this scene in the movie, I would still feel frightened because I'm a scaredy cat. And so there's nothing more sad to me than seeing like a sad old person. It just kind of like it hurts my heart so much. And if it doesn't hurt your heart, I think you need to have a heart check because it's just I can't think of anything more sad. And so what they have to do is they find out the Horcrux is in this like bowl, if you will, and the only way to get rid of it is to drink the water from it. But it's weakening Dumbledore. So only Dumbledore is drinking, and he's begging Harry to stop. Like, it's weakening him. I'm guessing it tastes bad. And it's just the saddest thing ever. And he's like hallucinating.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the worst.
Yeah, but it's awful because it's like the perfect trap in many regards. If someone somehow found out where this was, Voldemort would eventually find them because chances are they came alone and they weren't able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But Dumbledore brought Harry, who he makes him promise that no matter what he says or what he does, he's going to force Dumbledore to drink it. So he has to lie to him, tell him it's going to be okay. The next drop will be, that's all you need to drink. And it going up to his mentor, the person who has watched over him all these past 6 years, and forcing him to do that, knowing it's for their good, even though someone is suffering, is such a great character moment between the two of them that was really extremely powerful. And that when it does happen, yeah, Dumbledore is weakened, but they can get the Horcrux, something Voldemort thought was absolutely impossible. And in fact, doesn't find out until a book later that it gets stolen. Because once again, it's that pride, that ego that says no one would ever be that self-sacrificial to drink all of this themselves, to willingly make themselves weak, because I wouldn't.
Yep. And then when they tried to leave, that's when like the souls or the people, like this, what were they in
The Inferi.
That was so scary. Like just thinking about it, I
And,
don't like it.
and of course, like Perry panics, sees a bunch of dead people trying to grab him, and he forgets, oh, fire is the best thing against them. Well, not everyone in every situation is going to be, yeah, I know I'm supposed to call 911 if something goes wrong. But in the midst of that turmoil, and I see a car crash into another car, am I thinking call 911, or am I thinking, oh no, what do I do? Like your fight or flight response is going to change. And for him, he picks the wrong option, which I don't really blame him for.
No. And I mean, we know he's never been the book smart person, so it tracks. If it were Hermione, she would have known exactly what to do, but not Harry.
Yeah.
And so do we find out in this book at the end about, because we find out it's a necklace, do we find out the true necklace at the end or no? I'm not going to.
We know it's someone named R.A.B. stole it. We know this is a fake.
Okay, we did find out.
At the end.
So you did all that work for a fake. And that hurt my heart for them.
Now, for a clue, but not the desired result.
Right. And so the main point of this, even though it's a fake, this weakened Dumbledore tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then we already kind of find out he was already a little weak because he had like a lame hand or like a shriveled up hand from another Horcrux. So he was already weak to begin with. Now he's like super weak. And when they come back from this adventure, if you will, we find out that Hogwarts has been invaded. And so Malfoy's plan, which is very ingenious, by the way, I'm so shocked by him.
Yes.
So smart. But Malfoy's plan to sneak a lot of the Dementors, but not Dementors, what are they called?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the soldiers, pretty much.
Death Eaters?
Death Eaters. So he was able to sneak a lot of Death Eaters into Hogwarts, past all the securities through the vanishing cabinet. So.
Yes. And this whole time, Harry has been on a crusade against Malfoy. He's being kind of the Inspector Javert in this situation. All the books before, he's accused Malfoy of doing something, and most of the time he's been wrong. Mm-hmm. So he's the boy who cried wolf. No one believes him. Yet he's still crusading on the cause. Malfoy is up to something. He knows in his bones. Mm-hmm. And it's true. And that's established early on in the book when they go to the Borgin and Burkes. Like Malfoy wants something inside of that store. What is it?
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you remember parts of the books earlier, Fred and George Weasley had tossed, I can't remember which Slytherin, like Marcus Flynn or something like that, into this cabinet or whatever that they found. And it teleported them in between two locations to where he went missing for a while. And he told Malfoy about this. And he realized that is a way inside of Hogwarts that no one knows about except for us. So we can use that to our advantage. When the time is right, I can bring the Death Eaters over. We can attack Dumbledore together. That is my only way of taking him down, because his other attempts, his indirect ones, failed.
Mm-hmm. So smart.
It was a genius, masterful stroke.
It is so smart. And then, like, especially because they alluded to it in the movie too, with, I think it was an apple, a bird or something like that, trying to see if it would work. And you're just like, what is that apple doing there? And then all of a sudden, boom, everyone is. It's crazy. I love how the book described the fight scene. Like, really, the movie didn't do this scenario justice because it was just kind of more chaos than anything. But we find out, I think they're at the top of some kind of tower or whatnot, and Malfoy has Dumbledore cornered, and Harry is with the invisibility cloak in the corner. And I think he promised
and stunned.
Yeah, and stunned. And I don't know if he promised not to move or if he just couldn't move.
Dumbledore non-verbally stunned him with his last act to make sure Malfoy wouldn't find Harry was there. Mm-hmm. And so that either Malfoy or Snape would be able to kill him.
Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing is, this is a big part that leads into, we find out in the next book, is Malfoy couldn't do it. And Snape did the final blow. But he just let Malfoy take all the credit.
Which is part of the unbreakable vow he made at the very beginning of the book.
He protected Malfoy, and then Malfoy got to have like not really the glory, but the glory for the bad people, if you will. And kind of redeem his family too, which is nice for him.
Which is super important, given what we'll learn about Dumbledore's wand in the next book about why it's important who killed Dumbledore.
But it's crazy. Was that the end of the movie, that scene?
It's pretty much near there. We get him pursuing them getting away, and a little bit of downtime with, the friends and all that of, okay, next year things are going to change. We have to do something. Harry had revealed to them about the Horcruxes earlier because Dumbledore said he could, but now they know, and no one else really knows, that they've got to do something to destroy the Horcruxes. Otherwise, Voldemort will keep coming back to life.
And then this is technically, I always think there's 8 books, but there's 7 books in 8 movies, right?
Yes, they split the final book into 8 movies. This can be the 2 movies.
Yeah. So I remember when I was like going through the books, and I was like, all right, I'm done with number 6, 2 more. And then I got done with number 7, and I was like, no, this was it. Where's the other book? And I was so distraught because I think I just read the books like within the past 2 years, all of them. I was a late bloomer with the Harry Potter novels, but it's okay. I arrived.
Yeah.
It just took
you
a
got
little
there.
time. I got there. And it was so fun because like the books was kind of almost like just the extended scenes in my head, because I already had the characters, I already had their voices, I already had like the imagery of the castle. So I feel like it was usually I can't read a book if I've already watched the movie. It just doesn't work that way. But Harry Potter has been the only book I could read after watching the movie, and it was fun. So yeah, that's it, guys. That's the Half-Blood Prince. We're going to talk a little bit though about some moral dilemmas, even though I think the whole movie is almost a moral dilemma. But do we find out about the final Horcrux of Harry in this one or not?
No, that'll be the next book.
Okay. But I mean, we obviously know Dumbledore is keeping a lot of secrets from Harry, even though in this book, even though he let him in a little bit, but he just hasn't given him all the information. And so that's kind of like, even though you know something about someone and you know it's going to affect their life, do you think there's a moral obligation to tell someone about it? And so kind of just putting it in maybe like today's term, the only scenario I can kind of think of that kind of matters, well, that might relate a little bit, but not really, but yes. And so if I knew someone's wife was cheating on the husband, should I tell the husband? Because you know what I mean? Like technically, if you like, do you tell it? It affects them and it will be for their benefits, but do you have the right or do you have the ethical obligation to tell them information that will affect their lives?
I think that's a little separate from the issue with Dumbledore, and that one is an active participant in sin in that regard.
Oh yeah.
In that, yeah, if I found out, I would tell, because if the husband knows, he's got a worthless marriage anyways. If the husband doesn't know, or the wife doesn't know, and their spouse is acting against their husband or wife in that scenario, it proves that they really don't love them.
Okay, yeah, that was a bad example. You're right.
The loving thing would be to tell them.
Okay, well, what about in this scenario?
Go for it.
Oh no, I'm asking, what do you think about in this scenario? Do you think Dumbledore
in this particular scenario,
told Harry?
Knowing Harry's age, knowing his impulsiveness, no, not yet.
Not yet.
And I think for all of his faults, Dumbledore knew for the most part who he was dealing with. I don't always agree with the choices he made along the way, but I understand them. And for Harry, if he knew he was a Horcrux right now, that would give him more angst than he needed to deal with the other Horcruxes along the way. And when he does eventually find out, I'm the final one, well, yeah, that puts him in a moral conundrum. What do I do? But at that same time, he's not having to wrestle with that for so long that it distracts him from his mission. Now, is that the nicest thing to do? Is that the most loving thing to do? No, but it's a very practical thing to do in that regard.
Yeah, makes sense. I love information, so I'm like, I'm curious. Granted, this is not how it is written, but even like I think back books 1 through 5, if you would have just given Harry a little bit of information or like teached him, you know what I mean? Yes, he was immature and stuff like that, but you can like educate in a way and like help someone, you know what I mean? Like make more rational
Mhm.
decision. Like maturity is gained through experience, but it can also be taught a little bit. So I'm like,
Yes.
he did all this kind of flying off the seat of his pants. What happened if someone actually sat down and mentored him a little bit? You know, granted, Snape was a bad
Yes.
mentor. I'm always curious what if, but
But
that's not how the book was written.
but there's also, this is him correcting some of those mistakes in the past, is that he does reveal a lot of his plans. He doesn't reveal everything, but
Mhm.
compared to the Dumbledore of the 5 past books,
Right.
this is pretty much an open book, comparatively speaking.
Mhm.
And he's realized, hey, like I've been a kooky old man. I haven't been as wise as I thought I was. I should have let you in on some of this stuff earlier. I'm here trusting you with this. I'm still not going to tell you everything, but I'm going to give you more than you ever thought you needed to know. Which, should he have been a full open book? I still don't think no. I don't think he should have. But this is a huge step in the right direction because he also knows, well, spoilers for the next book, he's going to die. So he's using the last moments of his life to impart as much information as possible and then revealing the rest when the time comes.
Mhm. What do you think about Draco? Do you think he's innocent in all of this? Because really, he's a product of his environment. So we think of people who, once again, this is probably bad examples. I'm not on my good example game, but so I think of people who become. I really am not like, but I think of people who become abusers, but they were abused their whole life, and so they didn't know any other
Yes.
lifestyle, and so in their mind, even though what they're doing is wrong, they are a victim of themselves. And
Yes.
I see Draco as he is a victim of the Death Eaters because that's the path his parents chose, and now he has
Hmm.
this weight of having to redeem his family and he's afraid. He's 16. So do you think he's innocent in all of this?
Innocent, no. Victim, absolutely, yes. And I would also say innocent to an extent, in that, yes, he is a product of his environment. He has been raised on this uh, wizards, witches first mentality. Muggles, mudbloods are a stain upon the world. We should be the ones ruling over them. So the ideology gets put, just injected into your head over and over. So naturally, you want to believe it. But there is someone we see who doesn't believe that in the series as well, that being Sirius Black, who grew up in a very same environment, was abused mentally, emotionally. I don't know if it ever got physical on that side. I'd have to look that up again. But he rebelled against it while his brother remained in it. So you can see someone in that same exact environment. One goes one way, one goes the other way. And that's based on their choice. Now, there is something to be said about how people are brainwashed and programmed into thinking certain ways. And that's why when we look at cults and stuff like that, people who are raised inside of a cult, that's all they know. So why would they ever think outside the box until they're presented with new information, which is what Hogwarts kind of does. So we see it for Sirius. We see it a little bit with Draco in that his turmoil is like, my dad is in prison. The scariest wizard of all time exists and is telling me to do a job. Otherwise, I'm dead. I'm 16. Why is the world making me do this? Why am I forced to do this? He's being victimized not only from his family, but also from the person who makes his family a victim too. So what defines him ultimately at the end of the day as a victim and slightly innocent is that he doesn't pull the trigger, figuratively speaking,
Mhm.
when he has to drop on Dumbledore. He hesitates. He used indirect means to try and kill Dumbledore throughout the book. The poison potion, the poison wine or whatever it
And
was,
then the
and
necklace
the
was taken.
amulet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you could argue, hey, collateral damage. People could have died from that, but I think that was Draco trying to find an out. Being that, well, I'm not going to do it myself. It's going to be through these means. But what defines him is that moment. They're alone. There's no one else but the two of them, and he doesn't Avada Kedavra him.
Mhm.
It's Snape who has to step up to the plate, which you'll find out is actually the plan. But because of that, Draco moves beyond victim to a form of innocence. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah. Good point. Good perspective. I also think about the point you made with Black. Black found James and Reuben. Is that his
Mm-hmm.
name? Reuben?
Remus.
Remus. So so Black found Remus and James, and so he had that friendship and stuff like that. Granted, Draco could have had it if he wasn't such a turd to Mudblugs and Harry, you know what I mean? But it's really all about who you surround yourself with and the influences that you allow in your life, because you do, like you were saying, with your family, you can only do so much to an extent, but then you do, most of the time you get to start choosing your own influences, your own friends, your own environment, and who's going to speak into your lives. So that was a really good point.
And going to your idea of abusers becoming abusers, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes the abused are able to work around that. They're obviously dealing with the scars of what happened to them, but they choose instead, I'm not going to be my father. I'm not going to be my mother. I'm going to be a good parent to my kids and a good husband or a good wife to my spouse. And that can only happen if they're not stuck where they are, if they're able to escape, if they're able to see other realities out there besides what that abusive parent or guardian controls.
Makes sense. But yeah, I think, I don't know, Draco's probably one of my favorite characters in this movie, book or whatever.
Yes.
I feel like he had the most character development, and just kind of getting to see a little bit of all sides of him was really fun. Is it the next movie we find out the crab becomes a whole different ethnic in the movie? I can't.
No, that's the actor had like a
He had like
misdemeanor or something,
Yeah,
so they
something like that.
replaced him with Blaze Zabini, who was another Slytherin instead.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't supposed to be crabs ever. They just replaced.
That was not a race lift for once in Hollywood. It was actually they chose a different character.
Oh, okay. I can't remember. I just remember. Yeah, I don't know. I remember like reading the book. I was like, wait, crabs was in this one. I'm confused. I think when I watched the movie forever ago, I was just like, okay, maybe he died. I did Google it and had to find out the team. But is there anything else you want to comment about on this book movie? Have we missed anything important? I think we got all the major things.
I don't know. You talk enough about the romance, so you're good.
I think so. I mean, we talked about how Jenny was a little kiss hoe.
Okay.
A little bit. She be snogging. That's what they called it. She be snogging everyone in public, on the in the hallways.
She had like 2 boyfriends before Harry, and people are gonna act like she's been walking around the entire town, entire school.
That was one of the reasons why
on Hogsmeade on the weekends.
Yeah,
just snogging whoever she wanted to.
Snogging.
You've been listening to too much Ron propaganda.
It's fine. It's whatever. We'll talk a little bit.
She's a young girl. She's figuring stuff out. Now, that's fine.
It's fine. And then she can snog Harry for the rest of her days.
Yes.
So we will agree to disagree about Jenny being a little, kiss promiscuous, if you will. So we are going to go ahead and wrap out. Once again, thank you guys for those who support the channel. We want to give a shout out to Daniel Sigmund. Thank you so much for supporting the show and being a loyal Patreon member. We could not do this without you, and we appreciate you. Don't forget, if you did sign up for Patreon or Captivate, you get an extra bonus question where you get to hear Christian and I banter a little bit more. We're just going to talk about a little bit more of a deep dive of what we feel about the romance. Of course, I was going to do romance in the thing. When you asked, did I talk enough about romance? I was like, no, that's why it's in the bonus.
Okay.
So guys, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you either rate us, review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of your podcasting platforms. Check out the other 5 episodes we have of the books already mentioned. And remember, we are all... Oh, wait, no, we have to do recommendations. And then I can do the tagline. See, like, it's been a while since I've been...
There you go.
Okay, so recommend real quick, and then we can do our questions.
Yeah. X-Men 97, X-Men the Animated Series. If you've never watched it before, you're missing out. It's tremendously fun. It's fairly faithful to the comics. The last episode we just had was one of the best. I'm looking forward to more. Go ahead, Pang.
I just finished up Solo Leveling, so I highly recommend that anime. It's not romance or anything in that realm at all, so be proud of me, everyone. But watch that.
Not yet.
Wait, did you read the manga? Is there romance?
I've read the webcomic. It's not the most developed thing in the world, but I think you'll be happy with something.
Oh, look at God. Won't he do it? Won't he do it? So make sure you, like I said, rate us, review us, and let us know if we're just dumb, which we probably are. But remember, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom. a priest.
Hi, my name is TJ. I'm here to tell you about the Systematic Geekology shop. That's where we post all of our merch. It is hosted on Creator Spring, and we have a ton of really cool merch, mostly clothing. We have hats, extra soft t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies, and more. Our hosts wear them all the time. It's actually super comfy. We have glassware, mugs, which everybody loves a good mug. Fill out your cupboard. Get rid of some old ones, which is the part that I never do. That's why I have too many cups. We have cloth bags, posters, and it's really stuff we like to put our icons on there. We like to put quotes, things we come up with, and it's cool. It's a cool way, and a lot of it is pretty subtle too, to show support for one of your favorite shows. And my personal favorite is actually our SG Dad Cap, which I haven't been reluctant to buy it because now I have to wear hats at work and then I get tired of wearing hats. But it's really cool. It's really understated. It is our logo right here. And then it says Systematic Geekology on the back. It's great. It's a really good hat. We have a few of them floating around. Check it out. And if we could all just rock the SG Dad Cap in public, I think that'd be pretty sweet.
Hey friends, this is your pal, Will Rose, and I have some exciting news. Systematic Geekology will return to Theology Beer Camp this year, October 17th through the 19th in Denver, Colorado. And we hope that you can join us. We are part of Theology Beer Camp in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, at my home church in my hometown. And that year, Theology Beer Camp was called the God Pods. And then we were in Missouri, a part of the Geek stage. Yes, we had a whole entire Geek stage where we had workshops and speakers and had incredible conversations. And Theology Beer Camp last year was called the God Pods Strike Back. So you kind of see where this is going. And so this year, the theme is the return of the God Pods. And so if you head over to Eventbrite and follow God Pods 2024, or hop over to Instagram, follow it there. And if you enter promo code Geekshire, you see what we did there? Yeah. Wilbo Baggins approves. If you enter Geekshire, all caps, no spaces, you'll get $25 off your ticket price. Geekshire, all caps, no spaces, Geekshire. Yeah, say it with me, Geekshire. Enter that. You get money off your ticket, and you can join us and hang out and drink beer and have great food. And even if you don't drink beer, you can have incredible food and beverages and conversations with your favorite hosts here at Systematic Geekology. The Geek stage is growing. I'm proud of that, and we thank Trip for this opportunity. We hope to see you at Theology Beer Camp, the Return of the God Pods 2024.